The grave and the rain. Asterisk rain fell in slow, heavy drops over the small graveyard. The ground was wet and soft, and water slid down the old stones like tears. A cold wind blew across the grass, making the trees bend and whisper. Ella moved carefully between the graves, holding a small bundle of wildflowers. Her dark hair was plastered to her cheeks by the rain, but she did not care. She only cared about the grave ahead of her. The stone was simple, gray, no decoration, only a name carved deep into it. Jonas Hale. Ella stopped in front of it. She looked down at the letters, her heart heavy. Her hands were shaking. Double quotes Jonas, she whispered, her voice breaking. She knelt slowly in the wet grass. The cold water soaked through her pants, but she did not move. She set the flowers at the base of the stone and rested her hand on the rough surface. I'm sorry, she said softly. I'm so sorry I didn't save you. Her voice cracked on the last word. She closed her eyes and remembered the last time she had seen him. The battlefield had been a place of fire and smoke. Alien ships had burned holes into the earth. Jonas had been there beside her, shouting for her to run. She had tried to get to him, but a wall of flame had risen between them. She never saw him again. The resistance searched for days. They found no body, only pieces of his torn uniform. Everyone said he was gone. They told her she needed to let go, but she never could. She traced the letters of his name with her fingertips. I wanted to find you, she whispered. I wanted to bring you home. The rain fell harder. Her shoulders shook as she cried. In the trees behind her, a shadow moved, silent, watching. Jonas stood very still, hidden between the thick trunks, his heart pounding in his chest. He did not know how long he had been standing there, only that he could not take his eyes off her. She looked so small in the rain, so tired. He pressed his hand to the rough bark of a tree to steady himself. His legs were weak. Every step from the alien hive had been pain, but none of it mattered now. He was alive, and she thought he was dead. His throat felt tight. He tried to call her name, but no sound came out. He had dreamed of this moment every night in the prison cells. He had promised himself he would find her again, but now that he was here, he could not speak. Ella wiped her face with the back of her hand. Her fingers were cold and raw. I don't know if you can hear me, she whispered to the grave, but I never stopped looking. Her voice was so sad it felt like a knife in Jonas's chest. He took a step out from the trees. The wet leaves brushed against his arms. He was close enough now to see the way her hair stuck to her skin, the way her shoulders trembled. Another step. He wanted to tell her he was sorry. He wanted to tell her he had tried to get back sooner. The rain dripped from his hair and into his eyes. He blinked it away. Ella, he tried to say. His voice was rough from months of not speaking. It came out as a broken whisper, lost in the wind. He took another step. This time, she must have heard something. She lifted her head. Frowning, she turned slowly, her eyes searching the trees behind her. Jonas felt his breath catch. She looked right past him at first. The rain made everything blurry. Then her gaze stopped. She saw him. Her mouth fell open. She stared, not moving. Jonas stood in the rain, too tired to lift his hands. He only looked at her. Ella shook her head once, like she was trying to clear a bad dream. No, she whispered. You're not here. He opened his mouth, but no words came. She stood up slowly, her hands curling into fists. You're not here, she said again, louder. Her voice cracked. You're dead. Jonas swallowed hard. He took another step closer. It's me, he said, his voice ragged. I'm alive. Her eyes filled with tears. She pressed her hands over her mouth. Jonas, she whispered. The rain poured down around them, but neither of them moved for a moment. There was only the sound of the storm and the quiet space between them. Jonas felt something break inside him, a wall he had built to stay strong. He took one more step, closer than before. I'm sorry, he said, his voice shaking. I tried to come back. Ella's tears mixed with the rain as she took a step toward him. And for the first time in so long, he did not feel alone. The impossible return. Rain kept falling on the graveyard as Ella stood frozen. Her heart beat so fast she thought it would break her ribs. She could not look away from Jonas. He looked different, thinner, older. His face was covered with scars, but his eyes were the same. She took a shaky step closer. Her boots sank into the wet grass. How, she whispered. How can you be here? Jonas lowered his head. Water dripped from his hair. He tried to find the right words, but everything he wanted to say felt too big. They took me, he said. Quietly, the night of the attack, Ella pressed her hand to her mouth. She remembered the flames and the screams. She had thought he was gone in that fire. I tried to reach you, she said. I tried to get through the fire. I know, Jonas said. His voice was rough and soft at the same time. I saw you, before everything went black. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I looked for you, she said, for weeks. They said you were dead. I almost was, Jonas admitted. They took me to the hive. The word hive made her shiver. She had heard stories of the alien prisons. No one came back from them. How did you get out? She asked. Jonas closed his eyes. Memories flashed behind his eyelids. Cold metal, walls, chains, strange machines that hummed in the dark. I escaped, he said simply. I waited for a chance. When the guards changed, I ran. Ella stepped closer. She was so near she could see the dark lines burned into the skin of his arms. Marks left by alien tools. You shouldn't be alive, she whispered. Jonas opened his eyes and met her gaze. I am. She lifted her hand but stopped, afraid to touch him in case he vanished like a ghost. Does anyone else know? She asked. Double quotes no. Jonas said, you are the first. She let out a shaky breath. Her tears mixed with the rain. I thought I lost you, she said. I thought I lost you too. Jonas said. She took the last step forward and touched his arm. His skin was warm, real. Her fingers curled around his wrist, just to be sure. You're really here, she whispered. Yes, he said. For a moment, they stood in the rain without speaking. She felt like the world had stopped moving. Then Jonas looked past her toward the trees. His jaw tightened. We have to go, he said. What? Ella asked, her brow creasing. They followed me, Jonas said. Her stomach turned cold. Who? The hunters, he said. The ones who never stop. Ella felt fear crawl up her spine. She had heard about the hunters. The aliens sent them to track anyone who escaped the hive. No one outran them for long. Are you sure? She asked in a small voice. Jonas nodded once. They were close when I crossed the river. I don't know how much time we have. Ella looked around. The graveyard was open ground. Nowhere to hide. Come on, she said. She grabbed his hand. We have to get to the old road. Jonas did not argue. He followed her between the rows of graves. His body was tired, every step painful, but he would not let go of her hand. As they ran, he looked over his shoulder. He thought he saw a movement between the trees, something pale and tall, but when he blinked, it was gone. They reached the fence at the edge of the graveyard. Ella climbed. First, her wet hand slipping on the metal. Jonas pushed her up, then pulled himself over. They landed on the other side. Breathless. This way, Ella said. She started down the narrow trail that led into the forest. Jonas followed. Every muscle in his body screamed, but he forced himself to keep moving. Behind them, a low clicking sound broke through the rain. Ella stopped. Her eyes were wide. What is that? She whispered. Jonas swallowed hard. The clicking grew louder, closer. Ella grabbed his hand again. Run, she said. They sprinted into the trees, branches whipping at their faces. The sound followed them, never slowing. As they ran, Jonas felt the weight of everything he had been through pressing on his back, but he also felt something else, something stronger. He was not alone anymore, and he would not let her be alone either. Hunted * rain dripped from the black leaves as Ella and Jonas ran deeper into the forest. Every branch seemed to grab at their clothes, trying to slow them down. The ground was soft and slippery, and more than once Ella almost fell, but Jonas never let go of her hand. Behind them, the clicking grew louder. It was a strange, cold sound, like metal teeth snapping in the dark. How many? Ella panted. I don't know, Jonas said. His voice was tight with fear he tried not to show. 2, maybe. 3, can we lose them? Maybe, he said, if we keep moving. But he did not believe it. He had seen the hunters in the hive. He had watched them drag men away, silent and fast. They did not stop. They came to a fallen tree. Ella climbed over, her wet hand slipping on the bark. Jonas helped her down, then turned to look back. For a moment, the forest was quiet. Maybe too quiet. He felt the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Go, he whispered. They ran again, their feet splashing through small pools of water. Jonas's heart thudded hard in his chest. Every breath hurt, but he did not slow. Up ahead, A broken bridge crossed the narrow river. The old metal beams had rusted and cracked. It looked ready to fall. But it was the only way forward. There, Ella gasped. "We can hide." She slipped. Down the slope to the bridge, Jonas followed. When they reached the base, they crouched in the darkness under the beams. The river flowed past them in slow, brown waves. Ella's hand shook as she wiped rain from her face. "What do we do?" She whispered. "Wait," Jonas said. "Let them pass." He pressed his back against the cold stone support. His body felt ready to collapse. But he held his breath and listened. The clicking grew louder again. Closer. Ella closed her eyes. She tried to stop crying, but she could not. The sound was too strange, too inhuman. Jonas reached out and covered her hand with his. "Breathe," he whispered. "You're not alone." She nodded, her lips trembling. Above them, the bridge creaked. Metal groaned under a heavy weight. Jonas tensed. He looked up through the gaps in the beams. A pale shape moved across the bridge. It was tall and thin, with long arms that ended in hooked claws. Smooth white armor covered its body. A round mask covered its face. With a dark slit where eyes should be. It moved slowly, head turning side to side as it searched. Ella pressed her hand over her mouth to keep from making a sound. The hunter paused, its head tilted. For a second, Jonas thought it would look down and see them. He held his breath. The rain dripped onto the river, each drop loud in the silence. The hunter sniffed the air with a low hiss. Then it moved on, stepping off the bridge and into the trees. Ella let out a shaky breath. "It didn't see us," she whispered. "Not yet," Jonas said. He peered around the stone support. In the distance, he saw more hunters gliding between the trees. They were spreading out, searching every shadow. "We can't stay here," he said. Ella wiped her eyes. "Where do we go?" "There's an old bunker," Jonas said. "North of here. It was used during the First War. Will it be safe?" "Safer than this," he said. She nodded. "Then, we go." Jonas climbed out from under the bridge first. He checked the trees, watching for movement. When he was sure the hunters had moved on, he helped Ella up. They climbed the slope again, staying low. Every branch looked like it might hide another hunter. As they moved, Ella glanced back at the bridge. Her heart squeezed tight when she saw a pale mask appear behind them. The hunter had doubled back. "Jonas," she whispered. He turned. Their eyes met. "Run," he said. They ran. The hunter let out a long, high screech that cut through the rain. The other hunters answered with the same terrible sound. The forest exploded with movement. Ella's legs burned as she sprinted after Jonas. She could hear the hunters crashing through the brush behind them. She did not look back. She did not have to. She knew they were close. Jonas reached a narrow path that cut through a line of old stone walls. He turned and pulled her after him. "The bunker is close," he said. "Just keep going." Ella nodded, though her lungs felt like they would burst. The clicking came again. This time, it was so near it felt like it was inside her head. But she kept running, because she knew if she stopped, she would never see another sunrise. Asters, the hidden bunker. Asters. The rain fell harder as Ella and Jonas ran down the old path. Water splashed around their boots. Branches snapped behind them as the hunters closed in. Jonas's chest burned with every breath. He felt his legs shaking, but he did not stop. He could not. "There," he gasped, pointing ahead. Ella looked up. Half hidden under moss and broken branches was a heavy metal door set into a hill. The bunker. She felt a surge of hope so strong it almost made her dizzy. They reached the door together. Jonas dropped to his knees and wiped mud away from a small panel beside the handle. Old numbers glowed under the dirt. "What are you doing?" Ella asked, her voice tight with panic. "The code," Jonas said. "I remember it." He pressed shaking fingers to the keys. Behind them, the clicking grew louder. Ella turned to look back. Pale shapes moved between the trees. She could see the smooth masks, the long arms. "Hurry," she whispered. Jonas hit the last button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the lock clicked open inside. He said. Ella grabbed the handle and pulled. The door groaned as it opened, letting out a gust of cold, stale air. She slipped inside. Jonas followed and pulled the door shut behind them. Darkness swallowed them whole. He pressed his back to the door and slid down, breathing hard. Outside, claws scraped against the metal. The hunters had found them. "Are they going to break in?" Ella whispered. "I don't know," Jonas said. Honestly. She sank down beside him. In the dark, she reached for his hand. He took it, squeezing gently. For a long moment, Neither of them spoke. Their breaths were loud in the small space dot that Jonas felt along the wall until he found a switch. He flipped it up. Dim yellow lights flickered on overhead. The bunker was small but solid. Old crates and metal shelves lined the walls. In the corner, a dusty radio sat on a table. "Is it safe?" Ella asked. "Safe enough," Jonas said. He pushed himself to his feet and crossed to the radio. He turned the dial slowly. A crackling sound filled the bunker. "Will it work?" she asked. "Maybe," he said, "if the power cells are still good." He pressed the button and spoke into the microphone. "This is Jonas Hale," he said, voice steady, requesting extraction, coordinates attached. Only static answered him. He tried again. Outside, the hunter scraped claws over the door. Ella covered her ears. The sound made her stomach twist. "Will they wait out there forever?" she asked. "They don't get tired," Jonas said quietly. She closed her eyes. "Then what do? We hold on," he said, "as long as we can." He kept trying. The radio. After the third call, a weak voice crackled back through the speaker. "Repeat. This is Outpost 9. Say again." Jonas felt hope spark in his chest. "This is Jonas Hale," he said quickly. "5 survivors. Under attack by hunters. Need immediate rescue." The radio hissed. "Copy. Coordinates received. Hold position." The voice cut out again. "Did they hear you?" Ella asked. "I think so," Jonas said. She sank down beside the wall, her body shaking. "I don't know how much longer I could do this," she whispered. Jonas knelt in front of her. He took her cold hands in his. "Listen to me," he said softly. "You are stronger than you think." Her eyes filled with tears. "You don't know that." "I do," Jonas said. "I watched you keep going when everyone else gave up." A loud bang made them both flinch. Something hit the door hard enough to rattle the hinges. Ella pressed her forehead to his. "I thought I lost you," she whispered. "You didn't," Jonas said. Outside, the hunters began to claw at the edges of the door. The metal groaned under their weight. Ella closed her eyes. "If they get in, they won't," Jonas said, but in his heart, he was not sure. He stood and picked up an old rifle from a shelf. It felt heavy in his hands, but familiar. "If they break through, I need you to get behind me," he said. "I'm not leaving you," Ella said. He looked at her with tired eyes. "Promise me." She shook her head. "No." Another bang shook the bunker. Dust fell from the ceiling. Ella rose to her feet and picked up a small pistol from the table. Her hands were trembling, but her eyes were steady. "We fight together," she said. Jonas looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded once. Outside, the hunter screamed a long, sharp sound that made the walls shake. The bunker felt smaller than ever. But inside, together, they were not afraid. The last stand asters, the bunker shook as another loud bang hit the door. The old hinges groaned under the pressure. Dust fell in soft clouds from the ceiling beams. Jonas checked the rifle again, making sure the power cells still had charge. The green light flickered but stayed on. He looked at Ella, standing across the room with her small pistol clutched in both hands. She was scared. He could see it in her eyes, but she was also ready. "If they come in," he said quietly, "you get behind me." "I told you," Ella said, her voice firm. "I'm not leaving you again." Their eyes met in the dim yellow light. They did not speak, but something passed between them, a promise stronger than fear. Outside, the clicking and hissing grew louder. The hunters were close. Jonas knew they were not just hunting him. They were here to erase every sign he had ever escaped. He moved to the center of the room and aimed the rifle at the door. "Stay low," he said softly. Ella nodded. She crouched behind a crate near the corner, her pistol raised. The radio crackled behind them. A voice pushed through the static. "Approaching. Hold position." Jonas felt a flicker of hope. The rescue ship was coming. But would it get here in time? A deep screech made him flinch. The door shook again, harder than before. He saw a long crack appear near the top hinge. Cold air rushed in through it, smelling like metal in decay. "They're breaking through," Ella whispered. "Just a little longer," Jonas said. The crack widened with a loud snap. A pale claw pushed through, curling around the metal edge. Ella swallowed hard. Her finger tightened. On the trigger, the claw pulled back. Then, with one final slam, the door burst open. Rain and wind blew inside. The first hunter stepped through, tall and thin, its smooth mask gleaming under the bunker lights. Its long arms ended in hooked claws. It tilted its head, looking straight at them. Jonas fired first. The rifle's blast hit the creature in the chest. It staggered back, a dark burn spreading across its armor, but it did not fall. Ella fired her pistol. The shot hit the hunter's shoulder. It hissed in anger behind the first. The more hunters slipped into the bunker, moving like shadows. Fall back, Jonas shouted. Ella scrambled behind a heavy metal shelf. Jonas stepped in front of her, firing again and again. The rifle grew hot in his hands. One hunter lunged at him. Its claw scraped across his chest plate, leaving a deep groove. He kicked it back and shot it in the face. The mask cracked, and the creature fell, twitching. The second hunter leapt onto a crate. Its claws clanged against the metal as it climbed. Higher. Jonas turned to shoot it, but the third hunter rushed him from the side. They crashed together into the wall. The rifle fell from his hands and skidded across the floor. Ella screamed. She fired her pistol at the hunter on the crate. The shots hit its arm and neck, but it kept coming. Jonas struggled against the hunter, pinning him. Its claws pressed against his throat. He gripped its wrists, trying to push it away, but it was too strong. Ella turned, aiming at the creature. Holding Jonas, her hands shook, but she forced herself to breathe. She fired. The shot hit the back of the hunter's neck. It let out a high scream and fell sideways. Jonas gasped for air, shoving it off. "Behind you," he yelled. Ella spun around. The last hunter jumped from the crate. It slammed into her, knocking the pistol from her grip. They hit the floor hard. Jonas grabbed the fallen rifle. He aimed at the creature's back and pulled the trigger. Click. Empty. The hunter raised its claw to strike Ella. "No," Jonas roared. He threw the rifle aside and ran forward. With all his strength, he tackled the hunter off her. They crashed into a stack of crates. Metal split and fell around them. Jonas grabbed a broken pipe and drove it into the creature's chest. The hunter let out one last hiss and went still. For a moment, everything was silent. Jonas pushed the body aside and crawled to Ella. She was shaking, but alive. "Are you hurt?" he asked, voice rough. "No," she said, her eyes filling with tears. "You." He looked down. His side was bleeding, but he shook his head. "It doesn't matter." The radio crackled again. "Ship landing. Prepare for extraction." Ella let out a sob of relief. Jonas pulled her into his arms. "We made it," she whispered. "Not yet," he said, "but almost." Outside, a loud roar filled the air. Bright lights flashed through the broken door. The rescue ship was here. And for the first time in a long time, Jonas felt hope that this nightmare was ending. The rescue. The roar of engines shook the bunker walls. Bright blue light spilled through the broken door as the rescue ship hovered just outside. Dust and rain swirled in the air, covering everything in a wet haze. Ella looked up at the light, her eyes wide. For a moment, she could not believe it was real. "They came," she whispered. Jonas helped her stand. His side bled freely now, but he did not care. He held onto her arm to steady himself. "We have to move," he said. "More hunters will come." Ella nodded. She picked up the pistol again. Though her hands were still shaking. Together, they stepped out into the rain. The rescue ship was bigger than she had imagined. Its gray hull was marked with the symbols of the human resistance. Bright lights glowed under its wings. A ramp lowered from the ship's side. Two soldiers in dark armor waved to them. "Come on," one shouted over the engines. Jonas took a step forward, then stumbled. Ella caught him, slipping her arm around his waist. "Lean on me," she said. He did. Every step felt like walking through deep water. His body was heavy with pain and exhaustion. The soldiers ran forward to meet them. One took Jonas's other arm. The other soldier held up a scanner, checking for trackers. "Are you alone?" the soldier asked. "No," Jonas said. "3 hunters dead inside. More will come." The soldier nodded. He touched the side of his helmet. "Control, we are bringing them aboard. Prepare medbay." The soldier looked at Ella. "You're safe now." She did not answer. She could not trust herself to speak. They helped Jonas up the ramp. Ella followed, glancing over her shoulder at the dark trees. She half expected to see pale masks moving between the trunks, but the forest was empty. Inside the ship, warm air washed over her. She almost collapsed from relief. The soldiers guided Jonas to a medical bed. One of them pressed a small injector to his neck. Cold numbness spread through his body. "Rest," the soldier said. "You're safe." Ella sank into a chair beside the bed. Her wet hair clung to her face. She reached out and took Jonas's hand. "You did it." she whispered. You brought us home. His eyes fluttered open. He looked at her with a tired smile. Couldn't leave you, he said softly. She tried to laugh, but it came out as a sob. The ship lifted off the ground. She felt the smooth pull as they rose higher. Through the small window, she watched the bunker grow smaller and smaller until it vanished into the trees. A medic leaned over Jonas. Checking his wounds. He'll live, she said. You both will. Ella closed her eyes. She let out a long, shaking breath. For so long, she had imagined this moment. She had thought about what she would say if she ever saw him again. But now, with him alive and safe, no words felt big enough. She squeezed his hand, hoping he understood anyway. The ship flew fast over the forest. Alarms flashed on a screen near the cockpit, signs that more hunters had arrived. But they were too late. Jonas drifted in and out of sleep. Every time he opened his eyes, he saw her sitting beside him. And every time, he felt something inside his chest ease. He was not alone anymore. The pilot's voice came over the speaker. Approaching safe zone, prepare for landing. Ella stood and looked down at Jonas. We're almost home, she said. His tired eyes warmed. Home? He repeated. The ship landed with a gentle thump. The ramp lowered, letting in fresh air and morning light. Soldiers stood waiting to help them. Ella turned back to Jonas. Can you walk? He tried to sit up, but pain made him wince. Not alone, he admitted. She slipped her arm around him again. Then we'll go together, she said. He nodded. They walked down the ramp side by side. Every step hurt, but neither of them cared. They were leaving the darkness behind. As they reached the grass, a young medic ran forward with a stretcher. We'll take him, she said gently. Ella hesitated, but Jonas squeezed her hand. It's all right, he said. I'll be right here. She let the medics help him. As they carried him away, she followed close behind. She looked up at the bright sky for the first time in what felt like forever. The sun was rising, and Jonas was alive to see it. Home again. Jonas opened his eyes slowly. Warm light filled the room. For a moment, he did not know where he was. He tried to sit up, but a dull pain in his side stopped him. He looked down and saw clean white bandages wrapped around his chest. A soft beeping sound came from a small machine beside the bed. Everything smelled like medicine and fresh air. He was alive. He was home. The door to the room opened with a quiet click. Ella stepped inside, carrying a small bowl of soup. Her hair was clean now, brushed back from her tired face. When she saw him awake, she smiled. Good morning, she said softly. Morning, he whispered. His voice was rough from sleep. She set the bowl down on the table beside the bed. Then she pulled a chair close and sat down. How do you feel? She asked. Like I fought an army, he said. She laughed a little. It was the first real laugh he had heard from her in a long time. You did fight an army, she reminded him. Oh, he said, trying to smile. That's right. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They just looked at each other. So much had happened. But here they were, alive, together. The doctor said you need to rest for a few days, Ella said. No moving around too much. I can do that, Jonas said. She reached out and took his hand. It was warm and steady. I thought I would never see you again, she whispered. I thought the same, he said. Her eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away. When I was in the hive, he said slowly, I thought about this, about coming back, about you. She squeezed his hand. I never stopped hoping you were alive. He looked at the window. Bright sunlight spilled over the floor. It felt strange after so many months in darkness. What happens now? He asked. Ella was quiet for a moment. We rebuild, she said. We help the resistance, and we keep going. He nodded. Together? Together, she said firmly. A nurse came in to check the bandages. She smiled when she saw Jonas awake. You are strong, she said. Most people do not survive the hive. He's stubborn, Ella said with a small smile. That too, the nurse agreed. When she left, silence filled the room again. It was a peaceful silence. Ella stood and walked to the window. Outside, green hills rolled under the blue sky. In the distance, she could see the gray walls of the resistance camp. People were working, moving supplies, helping the wounded. Jonas watched her. He thought of the grave where she had knelt in the rain. He thought of her voice as she whispered that she was sorry. Ella, he said softly. She turned to look at him. That day, he said, at the grave. You were talking to me. Her cheeks flushed pink. She looked down. I thought you were gone. She whispered. I heard you. He said. Her eyes lifted to his. I heard every word. She came back to his side. Her hand found his again. I'm glad you did, she said. Outside, the sun rose higher. The shadows grew shorter. Jonas knew there would be more battles. The aliens were not done. The war was not over. But for this moment, he felt something stronger than fear. He felt peace. He closed his eyes and let the warmth fill him. Ella leaned her head against his shoulder. Rest now, she whispered. I'll be here when you wake. He nodded. As sleep pulled him under. He felt her hand in his. He was not alone anymore, and he knew he never would be again.